I wouldn't mind, but let me then ask you, because you mentioned, I also read it on your LinkedIn, you started when you were 18. So why did you actually start in this specific area?
So I was working in a job on a receptionist. I was a receptionist in a hotel, and it really wasn't for me. I really didn't want to do it. So I was trying to find other things that I wanted to do. I just knew I was creative. And at the time, I loved photography. So I was thinking about going into wedding photography. And I started training with a local wedding photographer. I built my own photography website in that time. And I was reading about how to like bring in more like clients and get more bookings. And I read an article about how you should have a blog attached to your website to, for good SEO and all of this stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm going to build a blog. And at the time, a friend of mine was also doing wedding stationery. And I was telling her about this. And then we basically decided we were going to start a blog together. We'd never even really heard of the word blog before this. Like, it was a new concept to us, but we were like learning as we were going. So we would meet up after work in the evenings and write blog posts together. We built a whole blog based around like weddings, colorful weddings, like DIY style. And what happened was the blog really took off and ended up being like far more successful than the wedding photography and the wedding stationery. And we were both able to go full time on that blog. It was this amazing experience for us because we had never really worked for ourselves before, and we couldn't quite believe that you could sort of support yourself online. Like we're talking like years ago, and it
It's
grew
for
and
the
grew and grew.
context before Substack and all these platforms, right?
Yeah,
Because these
exactly.
days
Before
it's more
Substack,
common and more popular, but before?
totally, it was before TikTok. Even like Instagram stories didn't exist. Like it was a while ago. So we were like sort of learning on the go, which was an incredible experience because it really gave me all of the skills I need to like own a business now. Like we were doing our own newsletter, we were doing our own marketing, we handled all our own social media, we wrote all the content for the blog, we handled the advertising side of things. And eventually, after having that for 10 years, I flew out to Mexico for a friend's wedding, and I ended up getting stuck during COVID. I couldn't get back to the UK, but it was amazing because I worked remote anyway. So it really, it wasn't a hardship to be stuck in Mexico. And me and my business partner, Emily, we basically were having like some big talks during that time. I then decided that I wanted to stay in Mexico longer. And we came to the conclusion that we would sell the blog, or at least try to. And we had a successful exit. We both walked away from that business, and we were both really excited to have sold a business, before turning 30. And then I was kind of like, okay, what now? What should I do? I was back in this situation of I was living abroad. I knew I wanted something where I could work remote at. And here was the downside. We built up that entire business and its socials, and we didn't have our own socials at the time. So when we sold the business, we sold all the socials alongside of it, and then was left with like no online presence at all for ourselves. So this was a really big lesson for me to learn. And it's something why I'm so passionate about personal branding now and building a personal brand, is because I failed to do that before. So when I sold my business, I was then, left with no online presence at all, starting from scratch. So I had to then start my own personal Instagram because I was just using the business one, set up LinkedIn and head on this journey. And during that time, a friend of mine saw a wedding photographer advertising for somebody to handle their social media for them. And I was like, oh, that's perfect for me because I've worked in weddings. I grew all the socials for our own wedding business. And I ended up working for her freelance. And I was like, oh, I can do this. I'm going to start building up more clients. And the rest was kind of history. I ended up building clients over that side of the world, which was obviously Mexico. I got clients over in the States as well at that time, and was just freelancing through social media management. And then I lived in Mexico for 4 years, decided to move back to the UK, and I've been here a year now, kind of, technically, because I'm all over the place, really.
I was waiting for a plot twist that you are planning to move back to Mexico again.
Maybe, who knows? Definitely on the cards at some point. I'm actually going to visit my sister in Australia this Friday, and she works for me now too.
Oh,
She's
wow.
part of the agency, so it's a work trip, but also a nice personal trip. And I love that. I love the freedom.
No, it sounds exciting. And before this recording, I was doing a bit of research, and I actually read about the bespoke bride, more about how you build it, what you did before, and I was really impressed. And now listening to this, it sounds like coincidences, that you started the blog, then it took off, then the business, then COVID and everything. And so that's what I find interesting or cool, because you never know what's the whole story and where it takes you in the end. And now you are building on
Absolutely. And to
LinkedIn.
be like so honest with you, I kind of felt like it had always been a dream of mine to live in Mexico. Like I used to visit Mexico every year with my family from like the age of 12 years old. So I really built up like a connection with that country. But I never had the balls really to move myself.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I can't do it. It's a huge deal. And I felt
Mhm.
like the universe kind of pushed me into it, like I got stuck. And then I was
It's
like,
like a
okay,
fate. Yes. Yes.
I'll stay for a few months then until I can get my
Mhm.
flights back. And then by the time the flight paths were back open, I just was like, actually, I really like the lifestyle here. I'm really happy, so I'm going to stay.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, imagine if you are stuck in some, I don't know, destination that is not as,
I know.
your favorite or as glamorous, but Mexico, beautiful, I
I
don't
got
know,
nothing for that
weather,
for
beaches,
sure.
food, and everything sounds nice. And I know
Yeah.
that it's obviously been a while, but do you know what were maybe like factors or reasons that helped you to succeed with when starting the blog? That it was just side project, but it was successful. So was it, I don't know, unique
I think
because
it
the
was
way
a
you
case
wrote it, or
of, I think it was a mix of things. First of all, I think it was timing. Like blogs were not that big when we very first started. Like they were just kind of up and coming. And there weren't that many wedding blogs. Like when we first started it, I will say there was maybe like 5 or 6 in the UK, and that grew to hundreds by the time we sold. So, first of all, that was something. Second of all of the weddings that you saw online were very pastel beige, your very traditional weddings for the most part. There was only a couple of blogs showing like different out there weddings, and we were one of
Mhm.
those. We really loved like weddings full of personality, full of color, full of brides hand making details to make it personal to themselves, and that was really like the niche that we focused on, which again I think gave us a good angle because it was so it was so different, first of all, and we also put a lot of our own personalities in there. Like we would share our own personal stories on the blog, which ties back into why personal branding is so successful now. We all want to relate to people's stories and feel like we know them more, build that connection with them. We did that from the start with the wedding blog too. We would share a lot of personal stuff going on. My business
Mhm.
partner got married during that time, and we shared that whole journey, her whole process. Whenever we traveled, we would share that on the blog too and on the social media. So I think that really helped us because yeah, people felt like they knew us because we were so open, vulnerable, and yeah, sharing our personal lives on the blog too.